In this video, we're going to take a look at how to set up our video recording on an iPhone Pro to shoot 4K footage. We'll also take a look at some even more advanced camera settings so we can get the best possible footage that we can. To get started, open the Settings app from the home page. Once inside of here, scroll down a bit, and when you find the camera settings, choose that. This is where all of our camera quality settings are going to be found. We'll just go down the list here and then make adjustments as we go. First, choose Formats at the top. Inside of here, we can choose High Efficiency or Most Compatible. Higher efficiency captures in a newer compressed file, which takes up less storage space. Most compatible, though, captures in the standard JPEG and H.264, so you know it's going to work on any third-party editing software, but the file sizes will be larger. This is becoming less of an issue now though with compatibility, and actually some of the higher quality recording modes will need to have high efficiency mode turned on, so we'll leave that there. Next, you have your Apple ProRes options. ProRes is a professional industry standard, so if you want the highest possible quality, you can turn these on and then use them. Know though that the file sizes can get huge, but if you're familiar with and you've used ProRes or other professional file types, then you're probably going to be used to this. The nice thing is, you can actually turn these on, and when you're in the camera, you can quickly turn ProRes on or off as you want. But for now, we're going to leave Photo Capture ProRes on and Video Capture off so I can show you how that works later in the video. Go back a menu, and then next, choose Record Video right here. This is where you can select the video recording formats. To set 4K video recording as your default, choose one of the options here. You'll actually be able to quickly switch between frame rates inside of the camera app as I'll show you, but for now, let's just choose 4K at 30 frames per second. That's going to be a pretty good standard for what most users are going to want. If you want to know the approximate file sizes as you're recording, they do have a little guide here underneath. For example, shooting 4K at 30, 1 minute is going to be about 190 megabytes in size. Scrolling down, we can take a look at a few more options. We can turn on enhanced stabilization, which is going to help in shaky footage, and maybe also turn on HDR video if you want. HDR gives you higher dynamic range in your footage, so there's more clarity in the shadows and in the highlights. But again, this is going to result in a higher file size. These are the only two options that I usually leave on. Head back into the camera settings again, and we can then choose our slow-mo settings. The highest you can go here in resolution is 1080 HD, and I'll usually keep it at 120 frames per second here. You can do 240, but it's super slow and usually something I don't need. Head back and then finally choose Record Cinematic. For me, cinematic means 24 frames per second. That's traditional film speed, so I'll always just leave it here. That's about it inside of the camera settings menu. One last thing that you could check, but it should be on, is lens correction down near the bottom. This will automatically adjust the lens distortion when you're using the front or the ultra wide angle lenses. Now that we have our settings made, let's close settings and then head into the camera app. Down at the bottom, if you're not already on it, swipe your camera mode over to video. Now, when you look here at the top right of your screen, you'll see that we're recording in 4K and at 30 frames per second. That's how it's now going to default every time you open up your camera app. If you want to quickly change these settings though, we can tap each one to change them. Say if we want to shoot in 60 frames, we just tap the 30 and it switches to 60. Tap it again and we're at 24. You can also quickly change your resolution off of 4K back to 1080 HD by tapping 4K, and you'll see you're back into HD, and you can use that if you don't need the 4K. So now that our camera and our 4K settings are all set, you can go ahead and start taking your video. Finally, in settings, we left that ProRes video off, but let's turn that on now so I can show you what that looks like and if you want to use it. Close your camera, head back into the camera settings, and then inside of Formats, at the bottom, turn on Apple ProRes Video Capture. Again, these file sizes are going to be huge, so be careful on how much you actually shoot in ProRes if you don't need it. Now close settings, head back in your camera, and at the top, you'll now see the ProRes option here. It defaults to off since it does make those huge file sizes, but if you have something that you want to use it with, just tap the icon to turn it on. Now when you record video with that on, it's going to be in the ProRes format. And when you're done or you just want to turn ProRes off, just tap the ProRes button again. And that's how you change your settings on an iPhone Pro to get 4K video and the best possible quality that you can get.